In the previous episode, unless his hair grew longer overnight and he started wearing a ponytail, of course, which I highly doubt will happen anytime soon, no matter how funny it looks in my head. I waste no time opening the latches.
Isabella.
Hello everybody, welcome back to The Letter. In the previous episode, we finished Hannah's story with a quick time event and have moved on to Zach's. I have fondled with my mic settings, so hopefully it should sound a little bit better, but please keep me updated on what you think. Okay, so in the previous episode we were going to make a choice whether to play it off, the pills, or to tell Isabella the truth. I want them to be besties. Ta-da! So I am going to tell them the truth. But it's never easy, ain't it? Oh, wait. Look at that. Oh yeah, baby, that's the stuff. But it's never easy, ain't it? Talking about my own problems, that is. It will never be, not by a long shot. Not when I've let it stay this way for so long. I realized that long ago, when the wounds are still fresh and the dreams are nightly occurrence, can't force yourself to get better or move on to better things. It is what's normal now, and I can only cope. The question in her eyes may be unwarranted, born simply out of curiosity and sincere concern for a friend. I don't owe her an explanation, in fact. But of all the people I keep close in my life, she's probably one of the very few who perhaps I can trust with this. Maybe she won't understand entirely. I can never hope she will. No, never to the full extent. That alone is expecting too much of her and giving too much of what I can. However, for all her shortcomings, I know she'll hear me out. And that is all I can ask of her.
My bad. I was kind of hoping you wouldn't have seen me with these.
The pills rattle lightly against the container when I gently set it back to its usual place. I'm sorry if you heard anything. I think someone's mowing the garden outside my window. Always a small area closest to my laptop, near the right hand. Within reach whenever, and a quiet reminder of what I shouldn't miss every day.
What? Oh, is it bad? I was just thinking that maybe it's a cold like Becca's. Do you need me to get anything from the store? Soup or something? There's one nearby, right? I can run real quick and...
No, nothing of that sort. I'm perfectly healthy right now. It's really difficult to say, but... Can you promise me you'll listen at least?
What is this about, Zach?
I should have been upfront with you about this a long time ago. But Ashton found out without me telling him anything. But you already know how that guy is. Can't hide anything from him.
If it's something you're having trouble saying, you don't have to force yourself to tell me. I'll forget I ever saw anything and won't ask questions. Promise.
That's sweet.
No, I need to get this off my chest eventually. Besides, we're already here. Might as well finish what I started, yeah?
If you say so.
She takes a seat on the couch, her posture easy and open, and her smile honest. As if it is just a simple talk between two friends on a regular day. It is far from one, but her unreserved air is enough to stamp down the twinge of unease that threatens to come up.
Let's hear it then.
And she does. Feels like yesterday, share a painful memory to a friend. True to her word, she listens while the story spills out from my mouth of my ma and pa and that little old diner across the pond and what it left me in that day. I can't recall most of it now, my own account jagged with a few missing details here and there. The passing years have eroded most of my recollection of the whole incident. All except for that one moment in the kitchen. The ringing of gunshots are as vivid as it sounded that day. Even ma's hysterical screams and the moment pa's body hit the floor motionless, his lifeblood flowing out from under him. And the gunman. He was smiling. He was smiling when Pa opened the door to welcome him. He was smiling when he put a bullet to Pa's chest and Ma's head. I've heard stories of how the world can be a cruel place for people like us before. I never believed until that moment.
Nan and Gran took us right after that. Sis and I flew straight to New Jersey as soon as they heard the news. A few days after, Ma and Pa were laid to rest. And we have a new home a continent away. I didn't even get the chance to take my favorite pillow with me. They said something about the change of environment will be good for us. They had no idea the different kind of ghosts would follow me here.
I expected questions, mostly those brimming with childlike curiosity and maybe some that are a little too hard to answer. But to her credit, she just sat there, lent her ears, and looked at me with no expectations or unnecessary judgment in her eyes. She appears wiser and older like this, easier to see the breadwinner in her. Her younger siblings are lucky to have her. When I'm done, after everything's been said, she wraps her arms around me, a bit awkward considering the gap in our heights, but it gets her sentiment across. Aren't they sitting down? But it's difficult to answer this in kind. If I am even supposed to reciprocate the gesture given my earlier apprehension. You can hug her back. She pulls away shortly with a smile on her face. Not the reaction I braced myself for, but it is obviously better than what I imagined.
Are you not gonna say anything?
Am I supposed to say anything after? Like, apologize or something? I don't think that's very appropriate, but if you want to hear one, I can think of something real quick.
Not really. Other people have something to say after usually. And they're not necessarily nice either.
Oh? Okay then. I won't. I can't think of something anyway. Sorry. I'm not very good with this.
Honestly, I think I kind of like Isabella more after that.
Who else knows, by the way?
My older sister, grandparents, and just Ash and you for now. Maybe I think I should tell Rebecca too, but...
But not right now?
Yeah, not right now. When I'm ready. Like today.
I'm sure she'll be willing to hear you out once you do.
I don't doubt she will. I'm more afraid of how she'll react after. One step at a time, yeah? Whew. Surprisingly, it feels good to get that one out of my chest. I was a little afraid you'd be angrier. I didn't tell you earlier than today.
I'm not angry. I'm just surprised. You didn't look like it. I wouldn't have suspected. I suppose that's how it often is, isn't it? We all have our... what's the word Becca uses? Inner demons? But this is something personal to you. I understand why you'd rather have a few people know.
That too. Well, these past few weeks haven't been easy for you. I didn't want to add that. Not after last night.
Something passes in her face, brief, fleeting, and disappears right before I can recognize what it is.
You okay?
Yep, no worries. I'll be fine. Look, about last night, never mind. This isn't a good time, but don't lose sleep over this, alright? What's important is you got what you want to say out, and if you need me, I'll be here.
I should be relieved. Her words are more than reassuring to my ears. There should be comfort in hearing those alone, in knowing I have another person to rely on if things ever go bad. But somehow I find myself worrying more for her instead. I'll make another attempt to get the story out of her if I can. But this is a dance I know all too well, and with her, I doubt forcing her to say something would yield any results. As much as I want to imitate Ash, there's only so much I can ask that won't result in something a little over disastrous. At best, she'll stop talking to me until a week passes. At worst, I'd rather not risk it. I've never seen her angry. Outright annoyed, maybe, and often directed at Ash, but never furious. What do they say again about happiest people when angered? Besides, it'd be unfair to her after our little chat.
So, food then?
She seems relieved at the brisk change of subject, and as if it had been simply waiting for its cue all this time, her stomach rumbles at the mention of food. Oh, that was hard to read. Rather loudly, as a matter of fact.
Alrighty, Missy. We're going to get some chow now. You better be quick, though. Can't have your stomach starting a revolution on us here.
Don't make fun of me. I'm not that hungry. Maybe a little. I didn't think I'd end up skipping dinner last night.
And now we have one starved stomach protesting. Sorry, it'll be nothing fancy, since I'm a little low on stocks. I should probably drop by the grocery store after the meeting this afternoon.
I can make a quick run for you if you want.
Nah, I've got enough to put together something nice here. Maybe. I could always improvise if we're missing an ingredient or two. It ain't like we're going for a Michelin 3-star status here.
Whenever I improvised meals, it always went disastrously.
Also, didn't I say you're a guest? Is this a Filipino thing? Or just Rebecca rubbing off on you?
The soft laughter that comes from her doesn't quite reach her eyes. Neither. The answer is neither. Because if she stays idle, she'll remember.
On second thought, I might need a little help slicing up the potatoes while I prep the ham. You up for that?
What? Do you think instant noodles are all I'm about? I'll have you know I can cook a mean paella with my eyes closed. All my siblings love it.
What did she just call that?
Paella.
Paella? It's paella. Or paella.
Sure you can. Come on. I think I know what we'll do with those spare ingredients.
Isabella saw Zachary taking an unknown medicine and, concerned, asked what it is for. He admitted he's suffering from a trauma. Ever since his parents were killed in a hate crime, Isabella could only offer him a comforting hug to lighten the mood. The two decided to cook breakfast afterwards. Despite the massive effort to keep the mood light with small chatter, cooking ends up being a mostly quiet affair. Between us, the consistent clapping of the knife against the board and the muffled noise from the television I left running, words have become surprisingly difficult to string together. Not entirely unusual, we've had moments like this before, but definitely unnerving with how things are now. I really wish someone else would come knocking at the door. Isn't Ash on his way? As pleasant as this is, breaking the ice or keeping a conversation going has never been my forte. That has always been Isabella's or Rebecca's department. Sometimes Ash's, although most coming from him border on awkward or embarrassing. Yeah, like his ringtone. Speaking of the guy, he never did call back, and I'm willing to bet my entire yearly salary that he fell right back to sleep after that call. Oh yeah, there we go.
Sorry, Bella. Could you...
Yep, I got it. The potatoes are almost ready, by the way. I turned down the heat just in case. You might want to check on them, though.
Ooh, are they making patatas bravas?
Hold on, I'll be right there. Sheesh, wait up. If you keep rapping at the door like that, you'll break it down. Ash.
Oh, good. You're awake.
Ash has already welcomed himself in when I take my eyes away from the oven. He's never been really keen with the notion of courtesies after he's warmed up to you, this guy. All 13 of my locks he broke can attest to that. 13! I still don't like Ash. He's a good fellow, though. Maybe a tad bit standoffish at first glance, but he's trustworthy.
Don't you have work today?
I could ask the same of you. Hey, Izzy man.
You're late. Something came up? You need to drop the Z-Man. It's getting old.
Sorry, I got caught up with something at the precinct on the way here. Had to attend to that first before things got out of hand. I'd tell you about it, but you know how it can be with those kinds of things. Later, maybe.
And you're here because...
What? I'm not allowed to say hello?
I doubt you're here because of that. And you're not answering my question.
Ah, my bad. Forgot to mention that. He called earlier looking for you. Rebecca's worried because you didn't come home last night.
You could have called my cell instead.
You weren't picking up. Anyway, I'd really hate to cut this little get-together short, but I need to be somewhere else. Come on, Isabella, let's get you home. I'll drop you off on the way.
But breakfast?
Wait, we're going now?
He lightly claps a hand on her arm and begins ushering her out of the apartment, throwing a casual wave at me as they pass. Isabella, on the other hand, doesn't appear too fond of the idea. And sure enough, before they can even cross the threshold, she puts a firm foot down, and the force alone is enough to halt them both and catch the taller man off guard. It would have been made for a funny picture. The way Ash almost crashes into her and Isabella giving him an indignant pout over her shoulder. Surprise and confusion are in his face all at once, two things that rarely ever grace it if he can help it. A rare moment even for our small group. If only I have my camera with me. Dang, it's literally on the table.
What is it?
Zach cooked something.
If it's just food, I'll get you something on the way back.
But the food! It's Zach's cooking. Real delicious food that actually tastes like food. At least stay and have a bite, please. Zach, help me here.
These two, whenever they're in the same room, sometimes I feel like herding a group of unruly kids instead of talking to two mature adults. One moment they're engaged in a pleasant chit-chat, and the next they're bickering over a minor issue. Frankly, if I didn't know any better and I have an overactive imagination, I'd say there's something going on. No, there's definitely something going on. Never mind how utterly impossible that idea is. No, they definitely fancy each other. Or am I just being reading too much into things like always? I can already hear Ash's laughter if I so much as suggest such. This is, however... Oh, that's it. This is an interesting choice. If I do this one, Isabella will like me more. If I do this one, Ash will like me more. Oh, and they both really like me. Oh. I want to do the food one because I think that's really rude leaving after you've just cooked loads of food. But like, Isabella's friendship meter is so high already, I think it can take a few hits to get Ash's up a bit more. But it's also like, me personally, I'd do this one. But logically, for gameplay purposes, I want to do this one. And it's too early to end the video. I'm gonna do both. I'm gonna save scum. I want to see the difference.
I don't know about you two, but I think you guys should really stay. I've already made enough food for all of us, and it'd be a waste.
Okay, they both went off. Yeah, okay, we're gonna keep that.
Why, I cooked up that special honey glazed ham you two keep on yapping about. Got some scalloped potatoes with onions and cheddar to go with it, too.
Isn't this breakfast? The oven timer dings. I shoot the two of them an apologetic look before sauntering over the kitchen, mittens in hand. The sweet smell of the glaze and salty tang of melted cheese wafts through the air as soon as I open the door and take out the 2 trays inside. Wait, what day is it? It's a Tuesday? The scent immediately fills the entire room, and even with the door and windows open, the mouth-watering aroma lingers. It's appealing enough that when I put the dishes down on the counter, another starved stomach protests loudly, followed by a burst of laughter. My head snaps at the two of them, and I can't keep back the smile at the sight they make. Isabella is clinging to the door frame for support, doubled over with breathless laughter. Ash is the more composed of the two, trying to look unconcerned, but a flush has crept up his neck and cheeks. It's clear whose stomach that came from, and Isabella's not going to let him live this down.
You're in no place to reject an offer of free food, Frey.
I wasn't rejecting anything. Damn it, I just missed a meal, that's all.
Aw, he's flustered.
Aww.
Shut it! Those guys at the precinct said it was urgent. Somebody has to be responsible for it.
Well, aren't you precious?
Right. You know, if you keep laughing like that, you'll burst.
I'm sure it won't be as bad as your stomach suddenly rumbling like a starved.
Aye, kiddos, play nice. Food's gonna get cold if we keep this up. Ash, you gonna stay?
Might as well, since Scaredy Cat's so hell-bent on staying.
Aww. A hearty meal. Have lunch with Ashton and Isabella. That's kind of cute. We eventually settled down after the food has been served, the jibes replaced by another round of friendly chatter, mostly about what's on the news the night before. Wait. I am so confused what they're eating. That is not an English meal. There is, however, a conscious effort to avoid mentioning what's currently on the headlines. The dead is never a good topic to talk over food in polite company, this case in particular. The wounds are too fresh, too soon. I'd likely avoid it as well if I were in her position and someone I personally knew passed away in a gruesome manner like that. Though perhaps the closest we got to broaching the topic is when the infamous mansion is brought up again. But even then we are careful, Ash and I. We keep the conversation light and avoid bringing up her late business partner. It's the least we can do.
The Wrights? Yeah, they're planning to move in soon. In fact, they already have a housewarming party planned. It's why they wanted us to rush the papers. They wanted to send the invitations out as soon as possible.
Oh, now I get it.
Get what?
Remember what I told you last night about the new clients?
Vaguely? Sorry, I was a little out of it yesterday. Was it the photo shoot?
Yep, it's actually for the one you sold. Something. When you put it that way, I suppose it makes sense why my boss wants me to prioritize the couple. They can have those documents rushed at just a snap of their fingers. Then they're more influential than I initially thought. Man, I guess my boss is expecting a lot more from this project than I expected. Hope I can live up to it.
Your photographs are more than good enough, Zach. You'd probably win an international award if you let yourself. Ma'am Hana's easy to please, too. As long as you're good at following instructions.
Easier said than done. Different clients have different tastes after all.
Still, a week? I don't think that's possible.
Now that you mentioned it, yeah. They wanted everything finished at the earliest.
As someone who is considering buying a house, it takes like months to process paperwork like that.
To be honest, it's not unheard of, but...
But it's still weird. Still weird, yeah?
A slip of the tongue. Still barely noticeable to someone who's already familiar with Ash's ways, yet in this moment it's impossible to miss. I shoot him a curious glance, but he ignores it. Rather pointedly.
I can't exactly say it's like that, where I'm just the middleman after all. As much as I want to comment on it, I only know what's on the surface, not the in and outs. It's just that BRC and my boss are more hands-on with the legal stuff this time, despite having a separate department dedicated to it.
Maybe Mr. Wright helped with it too. They have their own legal team for this, don't they?
Well, they should have one. Especially for a big property like this.
They have, but like I said, it's off our hands. Rose and I don't handle this stuff in the office. If anything, to me, this just means I'll be able to send the rest of the funds to Papa's treatment earlier.
I guess that makes a whole lot of sense. Officially off our instant noodle diet, aren't we?
Ash, has anyone ever told you that you have an uncanny way of ruining the mood?
The picture changed.
What? I was just saying. A few more months of stuffing your face with those, and I'm sure you'll start to look like a noodle cup. That's a pretty picture.
At least I don't live off convenience store food. Or make poor, unassuming pressure cookers explode.
He called her pretty.
What? How did you... Oh, come on, Zach.
Clearly, he does not own an air fryer.
Sorry, it just came up while we were cooking earlier.
I'm impressed, Ashton Frey. You even made it to the news.
A one-time thing. And it wasn't as big as you seem to be imagining.
Oh, sure. Let's all pretend that one time you almost set my apartment on fire didn't happen too.
Hey, that was an accident.
You were making a salad, Ash.
Can we please move on to a different topic?
It helps. The casual talk, the harmless teasing, the mundane stories interesting enough to let the time pass unnoticed. I'm sorry, how is this a mundane story? Apparently, it was on the news. By the time lunch ends, the shadows are no longer at the forefront of my mind. If it's the same for Isabella, for whatever troubles her, I can never tell. These things, the anxiety, the fear, they ain't easily seen, ain't easily forgotten after all.
You go on ahead. I've got a few things I need to ask Zach. I'll be downstairs in a minute.
Confusion briefly flashes in her eyes as she catches the keys he tosses over, but he doesn't give her an answer and waits for her to go ahead.
How sure are you I won't be driving away with your Shirley?
Well, for one thing, you're not insured.
You don't even have a license. Do you even know how to?
Papa taught me how. I'm probably a better driver than you. See you later, Zach. Thanks for the food.
Always has to have the last word, don't you?
You're welcome. I'll send you the recipe for the potatoes tonight.
A grin is back on her face when she leaves and closes the door behind her. For a little while after we are left alone, Ash goes wholly quiet, listening, waiting for her remaining footsteps in the hall to fade. The earlier amusement is gone from his face, replaced by what I can only describe as trepidation. I know that look all too well. When he's like this, he's expecting shit about to go down at some point soon.
That wasn't very nice, Ash. What was that with Isabella earlier? You're usually subtler with your questions.
They hired you.
Hired me who? Don't change the subject yet. What's really going on here?
The Wrights. Luke and Hannah Wright. You said your next gig is with them.
Is that what this is all about?
Just be careful around them. You have no idea what you're dealing with when it comes to that couple. I'd rather you stay as far away from them as possible, but you're already here. Isabella's their real estate agent. Seriously, of all the people in Luxburn.
Okay. I guess I'll just have to take your word for it.
He nods. Claps a comforting hand on my back and turns to leave without another word. He's never been good with those. More often he fumbles with what he wants to say, but his actions alone are enough to tell me how grateful he is for the trust. He reaches for the knob as soon as he gets to the door, but doesn't turn it. Instead, he looks back and gestures with his head towards a table. I don't need to follow his line of sight to know what he's going to ask about. He's likely taken notice of it the moment he entered the room.
You back on those? I haven't seen you taking them in a year.
Yeah, I kinda had to. It got worse after the film fest. The dreams, that is. I don't think I'll be doing that again anytime soon.
Aw, he traumatized himself making that video. That's sad.
Heard about that. Don't drop it, though. You don't want Becca scolding you. She actually enjoyed the movie you made, and she's hard to please. Consider that a small victory.
You don't have to tell me. She already did. Rebecca and Bella both gave me an earful after I said the opposite. Promised them I wouldn't, but you can never tell. Hopefully, once I feel better, I'll be able to think about it properly. Speaking of Bella, she didn't open up to me, but maybe with you and Rebecca.
Yeah, I'll try. I can't promise anything, but I'll talk to her.
Thanks. That's all I'm asking.
This time, when he reaches for the door, he lets it close fully behind him without glancing back. A mild draft sweeps into the room, and as I close the door behind him, slightly disturbing the papers on the nearby fridge. Ashton arrived to fetch Isabella hours later, but she didn't want to leave after all the food they prepared. In the end, Ashton acquiesced and stayed. The Wrights and Zach's upcoming gig were the few topics touched during their talk over breakfast. Can we just consider the series of events, please? It is a Tuesday. They wake up at, let's say, 7, and then apparently Ash arrives hours later, which I'm going to assume is like 10, and then they have to eat it. So it's like midday already, and none of them have gone to work. A mild draft sweeps into the room as I close the door behind him, slightly disturbing the papers on the nearby fridge. A lone note flutters by my feet, the letters on the surface glaring at me with mute intensity. Ermengarde Mansion, H. Wright, 11 a.m. 4 luxury living. After Ashton's warnings, they all hold a different meaning now. October 27th, Thursday. Right, so a day has passed. 2 days. Okay, so... Be quiet! Let's do this first and then I'll break it down. The next 2 days rush by in a blur, altogether leaving a collective mess of work suddenly piling up and new unexpected acquaintances or friends. Or friends with benefits. Depends on how you look at it, really. Either way, I'm stuck developing these photos at 3 in the morning to reach a deadline set by an overeager art director. Sorry, just heard. Don't get me wrong, Julius is good, has a vision, and knows what he wants, but damn, he can be too enthusiastic sometimes.
Doesn't matter when you couldn't sleep anyway.
Okay, now that he stopped humming, we can break this down. 25th. Isabella comes over, they have breakfast. Day after that, Zach goes to the Ermengarde Mansion to take pictures. And then... Okay. So we don't know what's happening today, but the day after is the party. Okay? There is nothing new in it, of course. After years of working as a freelance photographer, it's simply something I have grown used to. Get to know people, build up a client base, do good work, and cash in some late hours if need be. Rinse and repeat. It certainly takes a while to get some footing on the field, but it's the kind of thing that pays off in the long run and as long as you keep at it. Given enough time, you might end up with big names on your client list. Names like the Wrights in particular. I never did pay much attention to them, but it's virtually impossible to not hear about them when a local news channel or paper has something to say on their name. A party here, an acquisition there. Sometimes it's a new business venture, other times it's an everyday gossip that typically follows popular people like them. Not in a million years did I ever imagine I would end up working for such a high-profile couple. And between that and the fuss that comes with it, it leaves me no time to ponder over whatever happened to Isabella or Ash is so adamant we keep away from the pair.
They do seem like the good folk, though, despite the whole fame thing.
Sure, there was a rumor running around years ago about him being involved in some business scandal. But just like every gossip blown out of proportion by the media, nothing came of it, and eventually it simply died down. Or he made it die down. Much is definitely left to be said for the husband, but I doubt Much is definitely left to be said up for the husband, but I doubt a woman like Miss Wright would pick him if he doesn't have any good points at all. It would be Mrs. Wright. That spelling is Ms, which means divorced or widowed. It should be MRS, which is Mrs., which means married. Hannah herself, though. Oh, she ain't particularly bad the way the press make her out to be. The tabloids had it all wrong, that's faux show. I was gonna say for shizzle. For someone born with a silver spoon in her mouth, well, she ain't exactly what I was expecting. Among other things, the newfound friendship is what I least expected from her, but here we are. Although with a life as public as the Wrights, no wonder it's the women who often get the crappy end of the stick. I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's a real nice person when given the chance. Heck, she might have even ended up friends with Rebecca and Isabella too if they weren't living worlds apart. Probably. The beat quickly pulls me back before my thoughts travel any further. In one practiced motion, I carefully place the wet print I'm holding on a drying rack and amble over my makeshift darkroom to get the last photos from the water bath. Where is this darkroom? Inside the coveted broom... Thanks for the answer. Inside the converted broom closet, the film processor lets out another soft clack before going on its standby mode. At its mouth, a lone photograph sits on the tray, barely visible with the lack of light. It's the last one tonight for the set Miss Wright requested. I don't usually make this a habit, giving away stuff that is. It's bad for the business, no matter how well-intentional or generous you are. This exception, however, she did treat me well and was a pleasant companion all throughout the shoot. That's what we get for being besties with her. Even if she didn't ask, I would have probably given her a few prints just for the hell of it. Miss Wright ain't such a bad subject matter to begin with. And maybe this is just me, but for someone who has everything at the palm of her hands, all the money in the world, a loving husband, and a plenty big mansion to call home, she's lonely. She doesn't just appear like it. It shows in the tone of her voice, how she moves, and most certainly in her smiles. Always hidden behind the glamour for the world to never see. Sometimes for people like her, small things like these help, a little reminder that the world can be kind too. Water drips from the paper as I blindly pick it up and gently lay it on another tray holding a decent amount of photo flow. A few seconds under the solution is all it needs before it's ready for drying. No good rushing the last one, even if it's my body already screaming for some decent snooze. My hand fumbles for the light switch, moving towards it with familiarity, while I fish for a squeegee among the mess of tools on a drawer with the other. The bulb flickers twice before its glow settles and casts a soft light in the tiny space. When I glance back down, squeegee in hand, ready to finish the process and finally call it a night.
What on earth?
Her head is gone! Blurred and distorted beyond recognition, rather. Oh shit, I need to end the video. The area completely smudged over, leaving no trace of the same sweet smell the good woman carried in all the previous prints.
Damn, that was too careless.
A common mistake to make, of course, if one is negligent enough to pick a newly processed photo in the dark like I apparently did. It has happened before, loads of times actually. But I still can't help but feel a small pang of frustration over one mistake a newbie would likely make. With a sigh, I reach up for the switch again, intending to develop a new one from scratch.
It could pass off for one of those supernatural pictures they show on TV, though.
A memory clicks, one cursory thought in the sea of many, and a short yet distinct second from the day before. A glimpse is all I got, but it's enough to burn the image in my mind. There was a shadow. No. A woman, in her 20s or early 30s maybe, but with how far gone her flesh alone has become, it's not possible to tell at first glance. The skin itself has already taken a sickly pale color, rotten in most parts, blood dripping from every open gash and lesion on her body. Bony hands grip Miss Wright's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath with a vibrant shade of scarlet. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes.
Zachary?
Not for me, but for Miss Wright.
Zach, is something the matter?
Oh, no, there's nothing wrong. I just remembered something, that's all. Let's get back to the pictures. Can you move a bit more to the left, yeah?
The memory alone is enough to make me retch. We'll read this and then we'll end the video. Some of Hana's shots from the photo shoot the day before came out distorted after Zachary developed them. He would have almost dismissed it as human error if he hadn't remembered a chilling memory from yesterday's shoot. We will see what Zachary does with this information on the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me. It seems to be ramping up slowly but surely. Thank you so much again for joining me. I hope to see you all in the next video. Everybody have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all later. Bye!